Hey, what is going on, everybody? Chris Bishop here, and today we're going to be talking about the Canon M50. So guys, let's just start with some backstory. 7 or 8 years ago, when I first started YouTube on my old channel that hopefully none of you guys know about, I literally took a point and shoot camera and pointed it at my screen to record the gameplay. But, you know, as time went on, I upgraded my gear. And to the point where 3 years ago when I stopped doing YouTube, I was pretty much at my peak for gear in recording Let's Plays and gaming videos. You know, I had the Elgato, I had the Logitech webcam, I had all this gear that like improved the quality of my videos. But then I went further and I wanted to experiment more with higher quality recording equipment and gear, and you know, it really started with microphones. While I was still recording those videos, and you know, then I found interest in cameras, and that's when I really took my break in recording videos for you guys, and I pursued my passion in filmmaking. And this is what I started with. This is the Nikon D50-100, and this is just a nice little DSLR. It's about 10 years old, but the important thing is it has all of the manual functions that I will ever need. That'll teach me how to use a camera. It had ISO, shutter speed, aperture, everything that I could change. I had a kit lens, I had a camera, which means I could create content. So as I learned to use the camera and as I learned how to do cinematography, videography, whatever you want to call it, I, you know, kind of graduated that stage of filmmaking where I actually needed to get a decent camera. And the reason, number one, is because I didn't want to invest in the Nikon lens ecosystem. I wanted a camera where I could get lenses that would be supported across plenty of cameras, which Canon does that. Initially, I was looking for the Sony a6300 or a6000. I heard about the crazy ISO ranges on there where you could shoot in the dark and it would look clean. That's more so the higher Sony cameras, but you know, the lower end ones have that too. But then about a year ago, Canon released the Canon M50, and that caught my attention, not just because it came in white. I actually didn't get the white version, but just because of how much this camera packs in such a tiny package at $600. Alright guys, so just jumping into it here, the Canon M50 is this little guy. Weighing in at just over 1 pound, it is a very easy camera to use for long periods of time. Sensor is an APS-C, which does mean that it'll come with a 1.6 times crop out of the box, and with any other additional lenses you add to it. To demonstrate this, I have a full frame setup with a 50mm lens on it, and now here's the same 50mm but on the M50. Due to the crop factor, taking 50mm and multiplying it by 1.6 times will cause the lens to be about an 80mm equivalent. Taking a closer look at the camera, you may also notice that this isn't Canon's standard EF mount. In fact, because this is the next camera Canon has added to its mirrorless lineup, it also adopted the new EF-M mount. While a new lens mount is great and the first party EF-M lenses are really good, there aren't many of them. The kit lens that you'll be most likely to get with this camera is the EF-M 15-45mm. This lens is tiny, but it packs a punch. The lens opens up to f3.5 at 15mm and closes to 6.3 at 45. Not bad for a kit lens. I actually really like this lens for vlogging, both because of the wide angle 15mm and the built-in image stabilization. One downside to the Canon M50, which is not too surprising considering the camera's price, is the lack of IBIS. For those who don't know, IBIS stands for in-body image stabilization, which can greatly increase the stability of videos taken. The M50 also utilizes Canon's LPE12 batteries, which work fine for a smaller mirrorless camera, but will only get you about an hour of active recording time from my experience. Make sure to buy more batteries if you're interested in this camera. I'll link some down below. Alright guys, so now we're just here in my basement, which has pretty poor lighting, or at least I have it set up with pretty poor lighting right now, but I'm recording at 1/50th of a second, f3.5 using the kit lens, ISO 100, that's why it looks so dark. Let's go ahead and see here, and let's turn up my ISO. And right now we're at ISO 3200, and you can see there's not a lot of noise, not as much as I was expecting to get. So you can see kind of the lighting setup we have here, and I'm well lit. I wouldn't say perfectly lit, but let's go ahead and crank this up to 6400. So here's where it's pretty well lit, but if I come over to this darker area over here, you'll start to see the noise introduced into the image, especially right around here. Right now you guys can see a lot of noise, but you can still see me, which is pretty awesome considering this is only ISO 6400. I would be okay with using this ISO in an actual video, but let's take it one step further. The max ISO out of the box for this camera is ISO 12800, which right now you guys can see, my autofocus just kind of stopped working there for a minute. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch this over to manual focus, and there we go. That way I'm just in focus since my autofocus kind of stopped working there. So in like decent lighting, I mean, it doesn't look horrible. There's a lot of noise, sure. But as I walk into the darker areas, I mean, you really see the noise start to be picked up. And right now, I mean, you can still see me, which is just incredible in this dark of an area. But the noise is just too bad to use at ISO 12800. But in case you need to, this camera does go up even higher. You have to go into some of the custom functions of the camera, but I'm just gonna turn this off here. And at ISO 12000, you can still see me. You can't see anything else, but you can still see me, and it is pitch black right now. So now I'm at ISO 25600, and this is just insane. You can see me. It kind of looks like one of those like ghost hunting videos, a little bit like that kind of lighting or whatever. But like, I mean, if I point it anywhere else, you can't really see anything. I mean, maybe it's out of focus, but I don't even know if I'll be able to focus here in this lighting. And now I'm gonna try, I don't have like a noise reduction or anything in post, but I'm just gonna go ahead and crank up the exposure and see what that looks like. It's probably gonna bring in more noise, but we'll just see, like in this frame, for example, just how much you can see. The Canon M50 shoots 1080p at 24, 30, and 60 frames per second and can do 120 FPS slow-mo at 720p. Testing out the slow motion, although it is 720p, it actually doesn't look too bad. As well as a very compelling part of this camera, the M50 shoots high quality 4K, which is crazy for this price point. Unfortunately, 4K on the M50 does come with some trade-offs. First, it can only shoot 4K in 24p, which isn't that bad, but you also don't get to use Canon's fantastic dual pixel autofocus once you switch over to 4K. You're simply stuck with its contrast-based autofocus, which can be a bit slow. On top of that, there's also an additional crop in 4K, making the total reach nearly 2.6x. This is a huge deal if you're wanting to do any video involving movement, such as vlogging. For this reason, I prefer to stay in 1080p because it looks very good nonetheless. One thing I found nice about the Canon M50 was its wireless integration. While usually this can be a little bit of a gimmick, I thought Canon handled this well. The M50 does not support intervalometers of any kind, such as for time lapses. At first I thought I hated this until I realized that equal or greater functionality can be achieved through a simple iPhone app. I use Castable, which lets me view a preview of my video, change camera settings, release a shutter, set a bulb timer, start an intervalometer, and a lot more. This is way more convenient than using a wired shutter release cable, although you can't use your phone while shooting. So there you guys have it. There is the Canon M50 for you guys. It's my personal favorite camera. I love using this thing, and there's a lot of little neat things about it that can make it a lot better. Stay tuned and make sure you guys subscribe if you guys want to keep up with those videos so you can learn how to fully maximize the potential of the Canon M50, such as making it full frame for just $200 more. make sure you guys hit subscribe and you guys will see that video coming soon. Peace.